Hey everyone, and welcome back to another great episode on the Hope and Renewal podcast. This is where faith meets real life and hard truth is held with compassion. Again, this is your favorite host, Antonio Banks. I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope and pray that this message speaks to your heart, and if it does, that you do not keep it to yourself, but you will share it with somebody else. So I want to start off with saying Merry Christmas to everybody. And I also want to mention that this episode has been on my heart for many years. And there's a question I've been asking for years. And it's not because I'm a podcaster, it's because as a believer, I want to make sense of the pain that Mary knew. And this episode is called Mary, Did You Know? See, the first time that question really settled into my spirit was when I heard the song, Mary Did You Know by Danny Gokey. And see, from that moment on, my mind wouldn't let it go. And the question I asked, did Mary know the way she carried wasn't just a child, but salvation? Did Mary know that every kick, every movement inside her womb was prophecy unfolding in real time? Did Mary know the baby she was nursing would one day heal the blind, raise the dead, and die for sins he never committed? I wonder about the quiet moments Mary must have had when the world was asleep, but her thoughts were wide awake. See, looking at her infant son's face, trying to process the angel's words. He will be great, and his kingdom will never end. I asked myself, how much did she truly understand? Because how much can any of us understand when God asks us to carry something bigger than ourselves? The angel Gabriel told her, "You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you are to call him Jesus. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Highest." That's in Luke chapter 1, verse 31 to 32. See, Mary knew who he was, but sometimes knowing who doesn't mean knowing how. Here's the realization that hit me hard as I wrote this. The same question I asked Mary, and I'm sure some of you asked Mary, people end up asking us. When life shifts suddenly, when something hits us out of nowhere, when God allows something we didn't prepare for, didn't pray for, or didn't see coming. People will look at us and ask the same question. Did you know? Did you see this coming? Did you expect this? And see, just like Mary, most of the time the answer is no. Nobody signs up for heavy assignments. Nobody volunteers for heartbreak. Nobody schedules grief. Nobody prepares for storms. Yet when the unexpected happens, loss, diagnosis, miscarriages, responsibility, or even blessings, there's often this quiet expectation that we should have already known, that we should have had answers. And let's be honest, because this is what we do on the Hope and Renewal podcast. Even when we think we have answers, most of the time we don't. Yeah, of course, we all wish we did have the answers before that phone call, before that diagnosis, before everything changed without our permission. See, we wish we knew why it had to happen this way, when the pain would make sense, how God would redeem what feels broken right now. But here's what faith really is. Faith was never built on having answers. Faith is built on trusting God when answers are absent. I want to repeat that for you. Faith was never built on having answers. Faith is built on trusting God when answers are absent. And so this is what I believe Mary knew her son was from God. What I don't believe is she knew this part. I don't believe she knew the son she carried would one day be hunted, captured, and chained like an animal. I don't believe she knew she would hear whispers that his body had been beaten with fists, rods, and whips until he barely looked human. I don't even believe she knew there would be blood, so much blood that she would be left knowing it belonged to her son as she wiped it up. Skin torn, flesh exposed, a mother watching helplessly, not able to help her son at all. She didn't know she would stand beneath a cross kissing his feet. She didn't know the feet she once wrapped in cloth as a newborn would one day be nailed to wood. No angel told her that. No prophecy explained the sound of a mother's heart breaking. This is where some of us are today. The doctor's words we never expected, the silence after the ultrasound, the miscarriage that left us holding grief instead of life. And just like Mary, we didn't know this was coming. And there's a man I want to talk about named Jairus. He came to Jesus desperate. His daughter was dying. He wasn't asking for theology, he was asking for explanations. He just needed Jesus to come now. And Jesus was on the way, and then he stopped. In that delay, everything Jairus feared came true. Your daughter is dead. Why bother to teach her anymore? See, that moment feels familiar. That moment when hope feels expired, when a prayer no longer makes sense, when God doesn't move how we thought he would. See, Jesus didn't explain the delay. He just said this: don't be afraid, just believe. Jairus came asking for healing. God gave resurrection. See, Jairus carried the grief he didn't yet know would turn into joy. Both had to trust without clarity. Maybe that's where you are today. Between promise and pain, between prayer and silence, between what you believed would happen and what did. Faith isn't knowing how the story ends. Faith is staying when it feels like the ending has already come. Let me repeat that. Faith isn't knowing how the story ends. Faith is staying when it feels like the ending has already come. See, Mary stayed at the cross. Sometimes staying is the bravest act of faith there is. And so I want to close with this. God doesn't always explain the why. He never leaves us alone. He was with Mary at the cross. He was with Jairus in the waiting. And he is with you now. In the hospital rooms, gravesides, and the quiet moments when grief catches up. See, faith doesn't always look like confidence. Sometimes it looks like standing there because you don't know where else to go. And so when Mary didn't know on Friday, God already knew. The nails were not the end. The grave was not the conclusion. The silence was not abandonment. So if you're listening right now, do not rush healing. Don't force understanding. Don't measure faith by how strong you feel. Just say sometimes faith isn't trusting that everything will be okay. Sometimes faith is trusting God enough to stay at the cross until resurrection speaks for its life. I want to thank you for tuning in to this Christmas special on the Hope and Renewal podcast. I hope that you enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.